Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the English AI Committee Roundtable on artificial intelligence. We have a committee working on that, and these members of the committee are presenting today. They've been doing a lot of research and have a lot of great information. So let's go ahead and let them get started. Welcome.
Thank you. So basically, we thought today we could just each one of us present a couple ideas, whether it be AI optimizing or AI deterring. And each of us will give a little introduction of ourselves. So I'll go first. My name is Mary Song, and I joined ACC in 2018. And I've been doing, well, I guess who hasn't been doing a lot of dual enrollment. And so, of course, the students that we're talking about is high school kids slash college kids. And so I think AI could not be more relevant right now. And I think half the thing that is probably propelling all of us is that we just are not sure what to do with the arms race against kids abusing it. So my tactic was to just get ahead of that. And I have already assigned one of my suggestions, which is it's called Go Down the Rabbit Hole assignment. And it's literally an assignment. It's what we call one of the short academic responses, or SARs. We're trying to get away from that, but for now it's still a SAR. And they are to give themselves 1 hour. So I say that this homework assignment is a timed assignment, is 1 hour, and go down the rabbit hole. Get on ChatGPT or Bing, any free. I always tell them it's always going to be free, and do a little research on your topic. And at the time, it was what I call a dumpster fire essay assignment, where you have to present both sides of an argument. And I think that one of the best tools that AI can offer is to get that opposing viewpoint, because when you're Googling something, you are still cherry picking your opposing arguments. And so I think that AI really can be helpful for that. But I tell them that if you get sidetracked and go down other avenues, absolutely do that. Always, always be open to going down a different avenue. And I have a whole file that I dumped into our, Teams chat, and not this one, in our group chat. And so someday I'm going to sift through it. But if you look at their comments, these students are amazing. They are absolutely insightful about AI. And in some ways, they are far more intuitive probably than us, because they are being born into this whole technology. The other assignment that I was planning on doing was giving extra credit for any student who wanted to go ahead and AI generate their essay. Now, I have some underlying motives here. If they generate an AI essay, it's going to be a lot harder to create another one that doesn't mimic it quite a bit. So there's that. And then but again, let's talk about how we use this. Let's talk about how we optimize it for our own education. And just to throw another one in, yesterday, I only recently found out, it wasn't yesterday, sometime this week, I found out about a video AI generating. It's not out in the public, but it's called Sora. And I'm hoping it'll come out before the end of the semester, because I do a video presentation assignment, and I'm hoping that they'll be able to use Sora, but we'll see. So those are my 2.5 suggestions. Who would like to go next? Rosa?
Hi, I'm Rosalinda Isguera. I've been teaching for over 13 years now at the college level. I can tell you that today's students are totally different from the ones I was teaching 13 years ago. I recently got more into AI and ChatGPT. I've been messing around a lot more with it. And this a couple weeks ago, I decided I always give a rhetorical situation quiz, and I decided to let ChatGPT create the quiz. And of course, it was um, created with multiple choice. Mine is fill in the blank. And so I gave the students the quiz in the beginning of class. They took it. Some of them were just like iffy on the questions. They didn't know how to answer them. Everything that was addressed in the quiz was actually in my PowerPoint. So it did touch on everything I touched on. And they were just not happy when they turned in the quiz. And so then later on at the end of class, I was like, okay, I'm like, let me give you the real quiz now. And so I handed out my quiz and the students took it and they were like, well, what was the first quiz? I was like, I actually had ChatGPT create that one. It was multiple choice. I figured you'd find it easy. And a majority of the students hated it. They just could not take that quiz and they actually aced mine, which was fill in the blank. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Last week, I decided to use ChatGPT again for an assignment. I asked my students to write, in class, a paragraph of something that gave them the most emotion, like whether they're the happiest or the saddest. And of course, when you tell students to write that, they tend to share their deepest pain or their happiest moments. And so when they were done, I said, take that home and type it into ChatGPT and just ask it to revise it. And when they came back to class, they were so unhappy with the story that ChatGPT shared. It just totally destroyed everything that they were saying. All their feelings were technical and robotic, they said. And they said that, yeah. And the whole idea here was to show them that when you're writing from yourself, you have a lot of emotion, you take a stance, you have an opinion. And when you give it to ChatGPT to mess with it, it changes everything you're trying to say. And it doesn't sound anything like what you wanted to try to say. And so I think that's really, really important that we do need to let them see the difference between how they write and how ChatGPT regurgitates what they write. Thank you.
I just want to say I just typed it, but I have to say it too. I love how you show your students how AI kills their authentic voice. I mean, that is really great. I absolutely love that. Who would like to go next?
I'll be happy to, Mary. Hi, my name is Rose Pentecost. I'm fairly new. I just started last semester at ACC. I have several years of college teaching experience, but this has been my first time to dip my toe in dual enrollment. So it's been interesting being on the high school campuses and working with high school students. I will say that my approach has been initially to be sure that the students are well educated about generative AI, basically how it works, large language learning, how natural language processing works, to help them to understand what AI is capable of, and then what it doesn't do quite as well, particularly when you're thinking about a composition classroom, helping them to understand that even if they copy and paste the entirety of our rubric into the prompt, they're not it's not necessarily going to give them what they think it is. It sounds pretty, it looks pretty, the grammar's perfect, that the language is elevated. And for many students, they think, oh, that's enough, without realizing that it lacks transitions, it lacks connection, it lacks that human voice. And oftentimes is pretty easy to detect when you're reading an essay that's been generated by AI. A lot of my research has been looking at the ways that I feel like I could more effectively incorporate AI into my assignments. And in doing that research, I'm finding that many times colleges and universities that are kind of further down the road than I feel like I am are opting to use it during the brainstorming and the planning process, utilizing it for things like outlines, for example, to help the students build their ideas as they're stepping into that place of beginning to write. And there seems to be lots of good information supporting that type of use. And so I think that that's probably the direction that I'm headed, is to really help them see how they might be able to use that in the planning process, while then retaining the authenticity of their own writing and further developing those essays, so that we get what we're needing from the students in terms of them building on their skills for writing and expressing their ideas. So that's been my approach. And I am still working at that, but I think definitely by the coming school year, I'll have something definitive in place, and feel comfortable and confident. I have some samples that I'm going to be sharing with my students, but I'm not sure that I'm quite at that point where I really want to fully implement that. I want to play with it a little bit more. I won't say that I'm the most tech savvy of the group. So I feel comfortable sort of continuing with that research and getting something ready to go for the coming year. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Rose. I think that we can be confident, at least, though, that we know what we want to offer our students. So, from tech, I mean, I wrote my dissertation on cyber tech, and it's a come and go thing. We just need to adapt to it, right? Who'd like to go next? There aren't many of us. Carrie, would you like to go? Yeah.
I can do that. I'm Carrie Hatfield. I'm also an English instructor here at ACC, primarily in dual enrollment. In fact, I realized yesterday that I've been teaching dual enrollment for 11 years. So I do, in the brainstorming stage, encourage the use of AI and things like that. But I also, like, every paragraph that I give that we're going to clinic and pick apart, or that they have to put back together to determine, okay, so what's the order that this body paragraph goes in, using meal plan, that sort of thing. And I leave them kind of crummy. I tweak them to a certain point where I'm like, no, it actually follows the plan. It actually does what it's supposed to do, because my experience is that the AI goes off on bunny trails. And I've used ChatGPT, and I've used Bing Chat. I most recently used Bing Chat because I was in a hurry and needed to get some paragraphs in front of some students fast. But as far as prohibitive, I have found that one of my assignments that I give my literature students, first of all, it was the first place I saw AI generated text, as early as mid spring semester last year. And the subjectivity of the assignment, asking for their opinion, asking them to either agree with or disagree with a particular literary criticism. They get to pick the criticism, by the way. Gives, when it's AI generated, there are weird, vague things about it. It's very elevated language, but making very generalized statements. I just yesterday graded one that Turnitin said was 100% AI generated, and I believe it. Because at no point did it mention the author or title of the literary criticism or what journal it was from. And then the work cited at the end, the information was fake. So that was a pretty, okay, well, okay, at no point did it mention the author, at no point did it mention the title of the criticism. It gave very vague kind of ideas that almost anyone could glean from Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And but in the past, what I've found is that opinion part, that the AI doesn't know what to do with that. That it'll, instead of talking about the literary criticism article, oh, I agree with this point that the author made, it'll say, I disagree with how women were treated in this time period, or some other weird generalization about society that has nothing to do with either the text or the article. So that's interesting. And I think that really that like subjective questioning like that could really be anywhere in the humanities, and possibly a few places, maybe in the sciences. The other thing that I do is I embed a Trojan horse in my assignments. And a Trojan horse is basically you make sure that there's some negative space between paragraphs in your assignment, and in that negative space you embed a tiny, probably 8-point line of white text asking for something that would not be part of the assignment ever. My biggest go-to in my lit classes is I say, be sure to mention Victor Frankenstein. And that way, if that phrase appears, you automatically know that they used AI to do this. It's a dead giveaway. So that's what I have.
I'm so relieved you mentioned the Trojan horse tactic. I freaking love it. I haven't used it yet because I haven't done an AI assignment yet. But all right, so we have 2 more committee members that we need to meet. Who would like to go next? Ashley? Ashley, are you here? You are, aren't you? I thought I saw you.
Yes, I am here. I am now trying to transfer to my computer because I was on my phone. I was on drop-off duty this morning. And so, yes, like, I was telling my husband, I was like, I am not off. I have something to do this morning. So, yeah, so just give me like a couple minutes.
Okay. Alex, would you like to then?
Yeah, I can go. So AI kind of reminds me about when spell check and grammar checkers came out many years ago. And as somebody who is not the greatest speller in the world, my spelling often relies on spell check. And I think difficulty spelling is a hereditary, inherited disorder, as my dad was also an English teacher and he could not spell either. Dysgraphia, dyslexia, stuff like that aside, we all know that there are instances when spell check decides to derail you and derail the words that you're trying to say, right? Or give you the incorrect word. And that's why it's always important to be in the driver's seat of what you're saying and to read over what you're saying. So if spell check changes a word to something else or it just doesn't catch it, you can catch it. So I tend to be pretty good at identifying misspelled words. But when it comes to writing them, when it comes to actually spelling them, I'll sit there and forget how to write. Like, it's weird. I'll stand in front of class. I'm like writing on the board. I'm like, how do you spell this word again? But then again, sometimes you see it so much typed that you don't. Anyways, so that's why I think. Sorry, I'm getting over COVID, everyone. So I might cough a lot. um, where was I thinking? Where was I? That's why I think that when we talk to students about AI, we need to tell them that if you rely on the machine to think for you, then the machine is going to put out what the machine does. It's like auto citation generators. If you just plug stuff into a citation generator and you don't check the outcome, that citation generator did what it was supposed to do. It took information in and then it put it out. And you can always tell when students use citation generators. You can always tell because about 75 to 80% of the time they're wrong or they include things that you don't need. You don't need to include in that citation, or they're missing things that you explicitly said you need to include this. So auto citation generators are great and they're fine to use if you want to save a little time, but you also have to read over it and look at it and make sure it's corrected. You have to compare it to the gold standard because you're in the driver's seat. Just like with spell check, auto citation generators, all of these algorithm based, mechanical systems that are taking information in and spitting it out in one way or another. And AI gets a little bit interesting because just the other day I had a essay that I was looking at 2 days ago that was flagged for AI, and you can, yeah, 100% in the flag. And I noticed that Harold in the chat was talking about the effectiveness or um, those AI detection. Yeah, yeah. So there are problems with it, and it's not 100%, and you can't base it off of. But when you're reading this essay, it starts off one way. It sounds very nice, and then it moves into something else, and then something else, and then it's just like somewhere completely off topic at the end. And it reminds me of like it's full of sound and fury signifying nothing, right? That that is essentially what AI produces. And the student thought that they can just plug it in and be like, okay, this is saying what I wanted to say, but is it? It's not. So some of the other presenters here have talked about some of the other presenters here have talked about, using AI as a generative tool in the beginning stages, right? So that's one way to do it. But at the grading end, so I tend to focus on AI proofing my assignments. So I have robust rubrics. I have outlines. I have very specific things that I'm asking for regarding the outcome, the objectives of essays. So I don't give students a whole lot of freedom in style. I tell them you're going to have paragraphs with topic sentences, evidence, discussion, transition sentences. And I tell them exactly what those are. And I say that this is the foundation of academic writing. And then one day when you're working on your master's degree, you can start bending the rules. But at this point in time, nobody really cares about your creative exploits in this class because it's an academic writing class. I also give them outlines to say this paragraph needs to be about this one needs to be about this needs to be about this. So when I grade, I'm looking for things. I'm not sitting back and thinking about it from this subjective point of view. I'm looking at it objectively and as they should be writing objectively. So having a good rubric, having a good assignment sheet, having basically scaffolded building blocks embedded into your assignments to make sure that students have, like, this clear roadmap of where they're going. And then making sure that outcomes. Now, if a student can use AI to get to the point where they produce something that passes all of that, then that student has mastered the AI to the point where the AI is not doing it, the student is still doing it, because they have used the AI they're still driving. They're just maybe using cruise control. Okay. Now, is this going to come back and bite them in the ass later on down the road? Possibly. Did they learn everything they needed to? Maybe not. Have they internalized the um, okay, I'm looking for a word. I can't remember what the word is, but okay. But have they gotten to the point where they need to get maybe. But I think I've exceeded my 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there because I can keep going. I can keep talking, but I'm going to go ahead and stop.
Thanks, Alex. I think if any of you want to talk about what's the latest in AI, Alex is the person to approach for sure. Ashley, are you ready?
Okay, Mary.
Yeah.
Mary, what exactly is our question now? Because I see that we're all talking about AI. I don't want to exhaust this topic. But
Well,
what exactly was our question?
What we mainly want to do is we want you to introduce yourself, and then we all thought we would offer what we've talked about in terms of either a way to deter AI or a way to optimize AI into our kind of pedagogical structures in class.
Cool, I got it. All right, guys, hi. I'm Ashley Fontenot-Bellard. I have been teaching English, I think now for about 12 years. I have been at Alvin College for 5, and I've been all around Houston. I definitely enjoy teaching English. I'm happy doing what I do. I don't. Sometimes I forget that they pay me to do this, and so now in terms of AI. It's funny because I actually asked some of my high school students. I'm at Shadow Creek this semester, but I asked some of my high school students, do y'all know about AI? And I kind of like got some like blank stares. Now I don't know if they were just trying to fool me and make me think like, no, we don't know anything about that. Like, what are you talking about? But needless to say, I didn't get a lot of feedback when I asked that question because, and I did a little poking, but they didn't really say too much. And so, or maybe it was just because of the time of the day, because I have a first class that's early in the morning, and then I have the end of the day. So it's like after lunch, we're ready to go home. So, but in terms of what I do when it comes to AI deterrence, I too am like Alex. I have very strict guidelines for how my essays should look. And yes, there will be a time where, I tell them, your thesis sentence, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the first paragraph, but for my class, it does. I want it in the first paragraph, at the very bottom, I need it to have this many points. It's what I'm looking for because I'm grading 60 plus essays. I don't need to be messing around with where your creative juices. And so I need to know that you know how to write. So yes, I'm telling them I need to see title sentences. So if your paragraphs are not guided in some way by a title sentence that directly links back to the thesis, it's wrong. I don't know what you're doing in this paragraph. You can't just start off however you want to, so I think giving those explicit directions and even giving them kind of like something to fill out, I have a sheet that says, okay, write your introduction, and they're doing this handwritten. I said,
Give me the title sentence to paragraph 1. Write it down here. Right after the title sentence, I need your quote. Because here's the thing, they like to use quotes, they like to use stuff from the internet, but they don't know how to use it. You know, they're making it talk for them. Like, these are not your ideas. Okay, we got the quote here. Even if you paraphrase the quote, it's not your stuff, guys. You know, tell me what you think regarding this quote and how it helps serve the point. That's the commentary. That's what I want to see. Don't just paraphrase all this stuff and, you know, think that this is it. This is not the paper. You know, so and like I said, I'm grading papers now, and yeah, I'm gonna let them do a rewrite, because it's like the whole paper is like, you know, I'm glad that you're citing. I'm glad that you know that you need to do this to avoid plagiarism. But the whole paper should not be cited. It should not be one big paraphrase paper. So that is what I'm dealing with. But yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. That's it. This is our group. And so far, this is what we've been talking about. We have not quite touched on AI detection, just because I feel like that's just such a fluid. I think we agreed it was just changing too quickly right now. Right now, currently, I believe ACC, the only thing we have running is the Turnitin AI detector, which has been proven to be not perfect, but I don't know if that's, you know, we're never going to get to something perfect. That's literally, I think, impossible when it comes to writing. But in any case, we wanted to open up the forum now to, and I already, this chat, if you guys don't have your chat boxes open, you should, because there's so much good stuff in here. And I don't know how we're going to actually address all of this. I'm going to scroll up, though, and try to see what we may have missed. Okay, so I know we missed a little bit. If anyone wanted to talk about AI detection, please, you know, feel free to. I see a hand. Rose.
Maddie Sullivan, and then John Brunette, and then
Oh,
Rose.
Leanne. Okay, you should take care of that, because I'm having a tough time seeing the hands.
Okay, Maddie, what did you have?
Okay, good morning. Thank you. I teach Cert 1 and Cert 2 courses. And it's in the technical side of media production is kind of what we focus on. So composition and original composition is not really anything we focus on. It's more about gathering information, doing research about industry techniques and you know, different lighting equipment and things such as that. So what I've noticed, and I'm new at this, so I haven't really had a lot of chance to notice the difference between AI generated material and otherwise, but I have noticed on some of my quizzes, which are designed basically to get the student to do research and gather information. Um, it's kind of a low stakes way of getting them to go online and into the course material and find all the information they need about a question. But I have had students submit answers on quizzes and exams that to me seem to be obviously generated by AI, especially when compared to other answers from the same student on other you know, you can compare their writing style and the brevity of their answers, and then all of a sudden I'm getting giant paragraphs of organized bullet points and with much more extensive information than even I've presented in the learning material up to that point. And so it's kind of I'm not really sure how to respond to it, because in effect they are doing what I asked them to do, which is to do research and then present the information that they found. Uh, but it begs the question of whether or not they're actually reading and absorbing any of the information that their supposed AI prompt generated. Uh, and I don't know how to really respond to that, either in on the basis of scoring or on the basis of how to construct the quiz to where that sort of thing isn't going to be, you know, beneficial to them. So I don't know if I have a question or not. I just wonder if any of y'all have experienced anything like that, because again, I'm not trying to evaluate them on their writing skill or on their style of composition. It's about, have you found the information that I wanted you to find and then presented it to me to show that you understand it. And so it's kind of a new challenge for me that I'm trying to come to terms with, and I'm not really sure what direction to take. And so I'm open to thoughts if anybody has any. That's really why I raised my hand.
Can I answer that, please?
Mhm.
I think what, like, for me personally, that I've been doing this so long, I think it's important that in the beginning I do let them write themselves, make sure they're handwriting in class, because I hold on to everything that they hand in those first couple weeks, and that's what determines how much they're getting and how much is actually their thoughts and ideas and how much they're getting from AI.
This is Harold. Well, how do we reconcile when they're remote? So if you're doing online courses, and we may be doing more online, as FAST program kicks up and we have more and more dual credit students, I think it's more, how do we leverage this effectively, right? And I think Alex kind of touched on it, because look, they have to be able to prompt AI appropriately in order to get the outcome that they're looking for. And this is what industry is going to have. This disruption is not a blip. This is a permanent disruption. So we have to really figure out how to leverage it effectively, and how do we assess competence with AI. How do we effectively do that? I think tests and quizzes are going to be very difficult to do unless you do them face to face. But then my concern with that is that we've got remote students. So how do you do that? So it's just, there's a challenge. It's a big challenge. And so it's, how do we navigate through that? And it's evolving so fast. This, you won't be able to detect this at some point. Even the avatars, we can now, through Deep Brain, which is a South Korean company, can create an avatar looks just like you, sounds just like you. You can't tell. It looks exactly like you and talks like you, has your mannerisms, everything. It's just going to be, we're going to have to figure out, how do we adapt to this? So kind of trying to hold on to the past and trying to catch you. It's just not gonna work. You'll be very frustrated with that outcome. So that's just my thoughts. I don't do English. I only do really business type stuff. But and I'm new to Alvin, so I'm the new Dean of Career Technical Programs. So
Nice to meet you.
I'm pleased to, yeah, I'm pleased to be here, and I'm really glad that y'all are having this discussion. It's so timely. So.
It is kind of that same thing you're saying. My classes are hybrid, and so the quizzes and tests are almost all entirely done online, while our in-person classes are devoted to laboratory work and things like that. And so it's not, yeah, so I guess there may be new methods to do that, maybe in-person classes for ones that are particularly for like midterms and finals, having that, take away that option of pulling up AI prompts and doing it, and hopefully they'll have to actually type it out extemporaneously and put it into their own words right there in class. So that I may have to shift to that sort of thing.
But again, that doesn't solve the problem we have online. So the online piece, it doesn't solve that dilemma. And if you're offering an online course, but say, oh, no, but the midterm final, you have to come in. It doesn't work. If I'm taking an online course, I need online. I don't need online and then come in and do that stuff. It won't work. You'll get nobody. So it's, how do you assess that competence without having to come sit down, take the test? Even for complex mathematics. So if I I've even tried to hit the AI with doing stuff that's not even complex, but doing things like cluster analyses, things like it can do it. I'm yet to hit something it can't perform the math functions. And it's a good tutor because it tells them exactly how it did every single step. It's just really, really proficient. So if I explain something to them, they don't understand it, put it in AI, take a look, see what it tells you, because it gives you step by step. Maybe it does a better job explain it than I'm doing. So it could be a great little tutor too, is what I'm finding. So I'm learning new stuff all the time, which makes it exciting for me. I just don't know how to master it yet. But I'm addicted. Every day I use AI all the time. If I send an email, you know how I'm not really good at writing either. So I'm with Alex. I'm not the best speller either. But I'll put the email into chat to make it sound good. You know, so make this read well. And then it just makes it read so professional that I put it in there and it sounds good. It takes my words and makes them sound like I'm intelligent. So I really like that.
Well, thank you, Maddie, for your question. And John, you're next.
Hey, my name is John Brundrett. I'm a professor with the history department. Also pretty new. Started with Rose actually at the same time. I really just want to ditto everyone that has said anything about focusing on the rubric side and the prompt side. In fact, Alex, he's teaching at Iowa Colony as well this semester, and I talked to him a couple weeks back, and I was like, "Can I just see what you have?" And I'm gonna sing your praises, Alex, for you, buddy. It's extensive. I mean, I think the one rubric you showed me, man, was like 3 pages of single space, like just really detailed stuff. And you know, from history, right, very closely related with English as far as the assignments we give. There's a lot of writing. And if you require specific things on those types of writing assignments, if you add enough specificity in your rubric, AI, not yet, it cannot really replicate that. And then a lot of people here are talking about opinions, for example. AI can't write opinions, right? Now, I understand AI can develop and all that. That's fine. But my perspective is we're still relatively early with this technology. And as educators, we're at the beginning of this process of countering it and working with it, right, in tandem. And so I just really want to add to the voices, add to the choir, to anyone in the chat, for example, that's maybe watching this now or the recording later, that like, look, you can't approach this right now, at least from a very strict rubric and prompting standard, and it will help. Nothing's perfect, but it will help. And so I know multiple people said it here, but I just wanted to be another voice that's shouting that, because trust me, all of us historians, we're running into the exact same problems that the English department are running into for sure, especially at the dual enrollment level. And so I've been practicing this myself, and it helped me last semester, and it's helped me so far this semester. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. I appreciate that. And I know that Alex writes very detailed assignments. And we all need to take some lessons from him. Rose, you're next.
Yeah, I wanted to speak. I know this won't help across the board, but one of the things that I did a while back, and it was really in response to papers that were being purchased. So where I was teaching before, and of course before ChatGPT became readily available, one of the probably the biggest issues that I would ever experience would be students that were purchasing papers from online sites. And so what I implemented back then in response to that was, as part of my rubric, I'm very clear about the types of sources that can be used. And for the scholarly sources, I restrict the students to our library databases. So they have to use scholarly sources that specifically come from our library databases. And we have great resources, and we have Mark and Roger and other folks there that can assist with that. But those are behind the paywall. So we have to pay subscriptions for those sources. They're not readily available. That information, particularly scholarly academic journals, are not readily available out on the internet necessarily. And then the last couple of semesters, I've really ramped up a lot of focus on synthesis and working with the students on synthesizing information from their outside sources, become really strict about things like signal phrases and in-text citations and things like that, to be sure that they're not only like getting those skills, obviously, but it really helps in terms of getting their attention focused on what they need to be doing and kind of away from generative AI, because generative AI just cannot do that effectively. Somebody mentioned earlier talking about, the author not being mentioned or the article not being mentioned. There's not an effective use of signal phrases, for example. So I'm trying to drill down to like the small ideas as well, the things that can be implemented, that will help sort of eliminate, hopefully, some of the inappropriate use of AI. So that was just one thing that I have really been focusing on.
Thank you, Rose. Maddie had some comments.
Yes, it's actually a question based on what's in the chat. Mr. Marriott just put up a comment: curating the research universe of the assignments has been a way to short circuit plagiarism. Could you explain that a little bit, if you're willing to go on, Mike?
Sure. I'm a historian, like John Brundred, who spoke a minute ago. When I put together the writing assignments in any history class, I never turn students loose to everything in the world as part of their research for an assignment. I will give them a selection of things or a database through the library or something like that I know what the material is that they have access to, and where they're getting it from, and so they have to use that material when they make an argument, a historical argument in answer to a historical question I've given them. And so it forces them, because AI won't do that work for them. AI at this point can't go into the database and get the evidence they need for their essay. So they at least have to go do that. And once they've done that, they could theoretically feed it into AI, but I've yet to really run into anyone doing that, which isn't to say it won't happen, or that AI won't get better at this, but so far, forcing them into a confined universe I've created of the source material they'll use to answer a question I made, has made it basically, you'll get the attempt at plagiarism, and it'll be very obvious because it won't talk to things that are in that universe. It'll talk to other things, and that's always a dead giveaway that they're not doing the assignment. And then the rubric saves you there anyway, because even if you can't prove that it's plagiarism, you could just say, well, you didn't do what the assignment was. The assignment was to use sources here, and you use sources from somewhere else. And the rubric says, what the penalty for that is. It's very interesting, the rubric psychology. I don't know if we have any time to get into that, but whenever you make a rubric and then reference it later, it almost becomes its own entity. Well, the rubric says, my hands are kind of tied, and you had the rubric beforehand, so.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maddie and Alex. And the chat has been particularly active during all of this. Alex, do you want to verbalize some of what you put in the chat?
I was typing to avoid talking, but that was
Oh.
Because I'm trying to avoid coughing into this microphone. And that was kind of a response to what Harold, and I just kept typing because I was thinking like there's so much there to like my thought process regarding like how we test for competency. It's like I know that I've thought this in my own life, and this is back when I was in school. And I mean, I'm 37, so let's see, when I was in school, 2005 to 2008. And even before that, I would say like things to myself like, why do I need to learn this? I can go read it if I need it, or I can go look it up. Or why do I need to memorize this date or this or that, you know. And I think a lot of classes and a lot of school in the past has always been kind of dedicated to like, okay, so can we get these students to memorize dates, or can we get these students to memorize these specific things? And I know that I would think to myself like, well, I can look it up in a resource book, right? And because we are dependent upon that, because the human brain can actually only contain so much. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems with when you live so long. Your brain is going to behave like a broken vessel, and it will start to leak. And as you get older, you start to lose parts of yourself, parts of your memory. But it's it's how do you teach somebody, so like competency, like if you're looking for somebody to be able to like sit in on a test, right, and be able to just regurgitate from memory these things, or are you going to be able to, do you want to see how well they can use text this text, right? And I'm not a history person, right? But I took some history classes, and I know that that was part of what writing in the history was all about, is being able to take from like this historical text, and be able to pull from that and then put together your own argument about what's happening during this certain time. And it wasn't about memorizing the facts. So memorizing like dates and stuff. But where I'm getting at is kind of like, um, what do we want people to be able to do? Right? What are we supposed to do? Right? It goes back to like the whole reason why are students in school? Like why are they even here? I mean there's so many competing ideas out there. I mean the liberal arts idea, right? Um we're trying to create well-rounded individuals to be a part of society. So we're trying to create people to be members of society, right? Who will go and vote and make decisions and hopefully not cause too many problems and end up in prison. But we also have like the other ideas, right? We're trying to produce productive members of society who can fit into the capitalist machine and make money and do their job until they retire, and maybe hopefully live out the rest of their days on some kind of retirement if it's there. um and where does AI fit into all of this? Where does technology fit into all of this, right? If we completely walk away from AI, or if we treat it too much over here. And
today, Sam? Good. Loving it out here. I'm in Little Rock.
oh
Myrtle Beach.
what was that? Oh, okay. um okay, so anyways, but I think um I think that's what we need to think about, is like when we're doing testing, when we're doing competency testing, especially like when I have a student turn in an essay, what do I need them to do? I needed them to do these things. And I have to have that clearly set in mind, like this is exactly what I wanted you to do. Why did I want you to do this? And the reason why I want a student to write this essay and do these things and structure it this way is because I need them to be able to go into their next class and their future class and be able to write, so their instructor doesn't ask, who did you have for English? Who taught you English? Who taught you how to write? Because that's going to happen. And then they might say my name, and then people will be like, oh, he doesn't teach. Well, I do teach, but um and I but students will leave my class and hopefully be able to be productive, right? Members of other communities. And if AI helps them get there, how many people can start a fire without matches or, a lighter, right? um I think that's what the re-examining needs to happen, I think. Anyways, I think I've talked a lot.
Thanks, Alex. Julie, you have a question or a comment?
Oops, sorry, no.
Okay, we have about 5 minutes left. Does the committee want to wrap up? Is there anything y'all else you want to say before we end the session?
I wanted to definitely put out that I think as a committee, we wanted to, I think the whole roundtable idea was to put ourselves out there so that we can, at the very least, be there for anyone who wants to talk about this. I think the more we can communicate with, across the campus, across all disciplines, the faster we're going to be able to figure out how to approach AI. So I'm not going to volunteer everybody, but me personally, you can private chat me absolutely anytime. And I will give you an update on where we are in terms of, our discussion within the committee. I'm very excited about AI, to be honest. I do feel like AI is forcing us to re-evaluate what we're teaching, not only how we're teaching, but exactly what we're teaching. Just like Alex said, what do we want our students to learn? And I think that AI is forcing us to go into a more maybe self-aware level of learning, because memorization, all of that, it's becoming, I would say, kind of superfluous. I just don't think that, we even think twice about using a calculator. That's not taking an intellectual shortcut anymore. It's just using what we need to use. So I hope that we can get to a place in academia where AI is that very thing that puts us at a higher intellectual level than, um, kind of, I'm not saying that we're, not living up to what we should be, but I'll be totally blunt here. I feel like a lot of times my high school students are burnt out. They're burnt out from the low bar that they are forced to stay at. And I think that's a shame. So that's why this excites me. And that's all I've got.
Well, this is Harold. Marion, to the rest of the group, this was a really good discussion. I mean, I'm excited by AI. I'm glad there's other people also excited. The potential is just unlimited. I mean, I've been using it to create simulations, all kinds of neat things, So it's opening up my own imagination and helping me kind of reinvent myself. So I'm also very, very excited by the potential. So thank you for having this session. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We absolutely appreciate all the input. I'm probably going to go back and save this chat like as a PDF. There's just so much good stuff here.
All right, well, I'm going to turn off the recording. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I hope you enjoy the other sessions that are coming up. We have some great sessions. So thank you to the presenters and thank you for attending.
Hi, everybody.